Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, tell me.
So shall we start now, ma'am?
Yeah, sure.
Hello, everyone. Present here virtually. I am Pallavi here, and I welcome to all for today's session, which is titled as Exploring Current Research Trends in Social Sciences in India. And presenting this session, we have with us our today's expert, Miss Madhurima Das Gupta. Ms. Madhurima Das Gupta is presently working as an assistant professor under the Department of Social Sciences, Sociology, School of Library and Arts Culture Studies at Adamas University. Without wasting much time, I am welcome to Ms. Madhurima Das Gupta. You may start now, ma'am.
So a very good afternoon to everyone. I would like to thank Business Rojgar again for inviting me for the third time, most probably, to enlighten on a very emerging arena, emerging horizon of research in social sciences in India. Today, I will be talking about the major changes that have taken place presently in the research in social sciences in India. So beginning my lecture with my PPT is not moving actually. Can you kindly excuse me because my PPT is not.
Yes, ma'am. What's the problem?
PPT is not moving and the slides are not moving. I'm sharing the screen again. One second. Is it visible now, ma'am? Okay. Okay, so beginning my lecture on exploring current research trends which have come up in social sciences in India. So firstly, beginning with, I think all of you must be knowing what do we mean by research. Now we know that research is a systematic and organized effort to bring about a solution to any socio-economic and political challenges or problems in our society. And how such problems are resolved through certain use of logical methods, because research is a scientific undertaking. Because research is scientific. Why it is scientific? Because it uses the methods of natural sciences like observation, like experimentation, like classification, like comparison, etc. So it uses logical methods in order to discover new facts or to establish relation among the old facts in order to help us understand the relationship among any social phenomena. So that is why research helps to solve any particular problem. So if I talk about poverty, if I talk about illiteracy, definitely there are poverty alleviation programs. There are programs to reduce illiteracy in our society. So that is why research is very important to come up with a viable solution, to come up with a particular policy which is relevant to bring about a solution to mitigate and reduce any socio-economic or political problem. Now coming to what are the objectives of research? Why do we carry out research in social sciences? Now there are myriad objectives of social research. Some of the major ones are, firstly, it helps in understanding human behavior. Now, obviously, in social sciences, research is carried out mainly to explore and understand certain aspects of human behavior. So, for example, I'm just saying as an example, if I, as a researcher, I'm doing my research to understand the lifestyles of a particular tribal community. For example, if I talk about the Munda tribes or the Santhal tribes of West Bengal, of Purulia district of West Bengal, I am actually trying to explore their behavior. What are their lifestyles? What are their dressing habits? What are their cultural patterns? these cultural patterns will encompass their lifestyle, their dressing habits, their food habits, etc. So I will try to understand and explore the human behavior, the way they behave in their personal space. Okay. Secondly, social research also helps to acquire knowledge about any social event, social phenomena, or any social problem. So that means if I talk about the social problem, like crime against women, we know that there are rising crime against women like rape, sexual harassment, domestic violence, torture against the widows, dowry death. So research, if any sociologist does a rigorous research on them, they will have an in-depth idea about how such crime against women is carried out, what are the reasons behind the crime against women, what is its impact on the status of women in our society, whether any laws have come out or have been implemented to reduce or curtail down such criminal offense against women. Thirdly, it identifies functional relations in the social phenomena. Any social phenomena are related. So there is relation between the cause and its effect, because every relationship has a certain cause why it is happening, and that cause has its effect on society. Next is it standardizes the society's concepts, because research also helps to understand society's concepts like class struggle, generation gap, culture. Class struggle means, though this is a concept by a very renowned philosopher and economist, communist, German philosopher, economist, communist, and sociologist Karl Marx. I think most of you have heard his name. But class struggle means class conflict, the dichotomous class relations that exist between the capitalist and the working class. That means between the upper and the lower class. So by making us understand class struggle, he actually gave us a picturesque of how dichotomous class relation exists between the upper and the lower class. Not only that, social research also helps to understand concepts like generation gap. We know that, like in this particular generation Z, we call it a generation Z, it has a stark difference with the generation of our parents or our grandparents, because their perspective was different. Their society, upbringing, the developments in that society were very much different than the advancement and sophisticated technological advancement in our society. So definitely there will be generation gap. They will not be able to adapt themselves to so much of a diversified aspects of society. They will not be able to understand concepts like LGBTQ, like the way we understand LGBTQ means third gender, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and so on and so forth as it is added onto the categories. So we find a generation gap between us and our parents or grandparents. The fact that now we can access technology at our fingertips. We are extremely tech savvy. This generation is very tech savvy as compared to the previous generation of our parents or grandparents. They were not tech savvy because they did not have technology to access. Technology was not so profound. Everything was dealt with manually. But now everything is dealt with the help of machines. And one of the greatest impact is on technology, IT revolution, information technology. So that is why a generation gap gets created. And many a times our values are in conflict with the values of our parents or grandparents. Not only that, as I was talking, another major objective of social research is that it helps to formulate solution to social problems. I was giving the example of poverty, I was giving the example of crime against women, or be it the example of any kind of child labor, drug addiction. These are all problems which are grasping our society. So the task of social research is to give solution to such problems. By solution, I do not mean that these problems will be completely washed away from the society. No, because no problem is completely eradicated. It can be reduced or curtailed down to a certain extent. It can be controlled to a certain extent through the means of law and order. So various means of social control, formal social control, law and order. Okay, so these are the objectives of social research. Next, coming to what is the importance of social research in India. Now we know that social research is highly important in India because India has a long tradition of quality research in social sciences. And why this is so? This is mainly because of the role played by two important institutions. Firstly, Indian Council of Social Science Research, that is ICSSR. And secondly, University Grants Commission, UGC. So these two institutions or organizations, we can say, play a very important role in providing funds to the state and the central government bodies to run the teaching, to run the research in an efficient manner. But other than that, there are also many other government institutions as well. However, importance in research in social sciences can also be understood in two ways. Firstly, in terms of advancement of knowledge, it helps to understand and advance knowledge. And secondly, it helps to formulate policies. It helps in implementation of policies, because without policy formulation, there is no value of research. Because policy formulation contributes to not only to the funding agency, but to the society at large. Later on, I will speak on how policies are implemented and how it is relevant for research, social research. Okay, so therein lies the significance of research in India. Next, coming to the impact of globalization on social research. Now, out of all the factors, there might be a question like, out of this industrialization, modernization, urbanization, globalization, why did I choose globalization? Because I know that with the onset of industrial revolution, machines came into existence, industries flourished, and with industrial revolution, industrialization came into existence. So industries flourished, and with industrialization, urbanization came into existence. Urbanization means enormous growth of towns and cities, because these industries, these machines, they will create products for whom? For the people who reside in these towns and cities. And with urbanization came modernization. Modernization, where there is more emphasis on reason, rationality, because reason, rationality became important from the time of Enlightenment or Renaissance. So reason, rationality came into existence, and there was also major emphasis on scientific and technological progress. And with modernization came globalization. Globalization, which means, in very simple words, socio-economic and cultural interdependence, which means that in present society, there is import and export of goods and services between our country and our neighboring countries or countries of abroad, UK, USA, Japan, Indonesia, everywhere. So that has been possible because global trade, import and export of goods and services. So that is economic globalization. And with the help of this economic globalization, the cultural relations among these nations are properly strengthened. That is why there is, dependence, cultural interdependence between two nations. So that is globalization. And this globalization of Indian economy has brought about two major developments in research. It has brought about two major developments in research. What are they? Firstly, international help for educational development. That means definitely for the proper development of education and research, international help is very, very much required. It is a prerequisite. Only help from the national organizations will not do. Any kind of international aid is a prima facie. And secondly, emergence of private entrepreneurship. That is, private consultancy firms are coming into existence. Now they are taking hold of education and research. Though it has good implications, it has a kind of negative implications as well. And both of these implications are actually changing the quality, quantity, and the research of and the nature of research in social sciences in India. So that is where the impact of globalization lies on social research in India. Now, all the while I was talking about, what is research objectives, importance of research, how globalization plays an important role. Now, coming to the major forte, the major focus of my lecture, the emerging research trends. That means here I will be discussing about the major changes or the paradigm shifts that have taken place in social research in India. The first and the major paradigm shift is that there is a change, a radical transformation from basic to applied research. I repeat myself, there is a paradigm shift from basic to applied research. So basic research means it generates knowledge for knowledge's sake. It mainly helps to understand theoretical knowledge, whereas applied research means, going by the name itself, it helps to apply the sociological theory to solve any kind of socio-economic problems in our society. Now, though nowadays in research, there is dependence on theories also, but still there is more work on empirical analysis. More statistical analysis are given importance. So there has been a transformation from traditional statistical tools, like in previous research or research in previous years were carried out by using traditional statistical tools like mean, median, mode. But now it has been replaced by modern statistical tools, by software like SPSS, software like NOVA, software like Strata. So when we give all the data in the software actually calculates everything and automatically brings the results to us. We don't have to calculate it manually, like the way we used to do previously. So that means we are using the knowledge of basic research and applying it to the software. So it is applied research. That is the first paradigm shift. Second paradigm shift is a change from empirical to action research. Now, yes, I was saying that now there is more emphasis on empirical research, where the researcher has to visit the field and have to collect the data directly from the field. But most important is to actually bring about changes in the society through the means of action. So what is this action research? Action research is basically problem solving research, which I was saying from the beginning, one of the objectives. The task of action research is to solve any problem in our society, to mitigate or reduce that problem. So here an example is given of poverty alleviation programs. We know that poverty is a major social menace. It is a social problem in our society. I think around 70% of the population lies below the poverty line, BPL. That is why India still remains a modern society. We cannot term it as a postmodern society. Okay, so that is why we have poverty alleviation programs to reduce poverty. One such program is IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. Then you have TRISEM. Then you have Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. You also have Manrega. These are all important poverty alleviation programs to reduce or mitigate poverty at the ground level. So definitely that is a form of action research. You are trying to solve the problem of poverty through the means of poverty alleviation programs. And many of the programs have been successful to reduce poverty in the remote areas or at the rural areas. Though not all have been successful, definitely, but many of them has been successful. One such program is Manrega. Manrega is one of the most successful poverty alleviation program, which has helped to reduce poverty to a certain extent. And there has been immense research which is going on these poverty alleviation programs, how these can be revised, how these can be improved to reduce poverty. Because if poverty is not reduced, India cannot be economically developed. Okay. So the second shift is from empirical to action research. The next shift is from academic to policy relevant research. Now, as I was saying, while discussing about the importance of research, that policy relevance is very important. Because if a research is not policy relevant, then it has no use. There is no value of carrying out that research. So for example, if any sociologist is working on, I'm just giving an example, on working on sex workers, commercial sex workers, and they're trying to bring out a policy which will protect the commercial sex workers from any kind of social stigma, from any kind of violence from the society. So the end result, the end product of the research is policy. And that will happen mainly after the research report. That report has to be converted in the form of policy. Because unless policies are formulated, the research hardly has any value. Because it has to bring about a change in the society. So that is why policy relevance of research is important, because it is not region specific. No research is region specific. Like when you first carry out the research, you have to specify to a particular region. But when you come up with the results, you have to generalize it with the entire society, because you're contributing it to the society. Though you're working on a particular locality, but when you're coming up with the results, you're trying to generalize it. from particularism to generalization. And that has been possible mainly because of the onset of international help or international agencies, and also because of private market forces into education and research, because of which priorities in research are changing. So implementation of policies are a prima facie for the development or economic growth of a nation. So these policies not only have to be formulated, they need to be amended or implemented regularly. Okay. So that is why the shift from academic to policy relevant research. Next, coming to a paradigm shift to translational sociology. I repeat, translational, not transnational, translational. Now, this is a very emerging arena of research. Now, what do we mean by translation? Those who are from English, they can refer to it. Translation means it which helps to translate anything into from a particular language to another particular language. Now, this translational sociology is an emerging style of sociology, and it was developed first by Callens. And what is this translational sociology? It applies sociological theory to address the real world problems using scientific methods. Remember, I was giving the example of class struggle. Class struggle was explained by Karl Marx. And what was this class struggle? It showed the dichotomous class relation between the capitalist and the working class, bourgeois and the proletariat, that is upper and the lower class. So by actually giving us the theory of class struggle, we got to understand, or it helped us to debunk the dichotomous class relation that exists between the upper and the lower class. Definitely, so through the means of class struggle, we can understand the class conflict which goes on between the upper and the lower class. Okay, or if I give the example of labeling theory of crime and deviance. What is this labeling theory? L-A-B-E-L-L-I-N-G. Labeling theory means when a particular person commits any crime, he or she is given a particular label as a deviant or a criminal. And from that day onwards, that label becomes a permanent status, a master status in his or her life. So the fact that even if that person used to be in a good profession, maybe a teacher or a professor or anyone, that teacher or professor becomes vanquished. And from that time onwards, he or she becomes a criminal or a prisoner. So gets a new label, a new status. And that status becomes a master status, which actually overrides his or her former identity. So definitely translational sociology means where you are using this sociological theory to address or understand the real world problems by using scientific methods. And one of the most important features of translational sociology is that it develops the strategies to resolve the social problems through evidence-based interventions. Translational sociology is based on evidence. Without evidence, translational sociology has no value. It always depends on authentic source, evidence. If there is no evidence, there is no value of translational research. Because these evidence will help you to solve the social real world problems by using the scientific methods. So therein lies the paradigm shift to translational sociology. Next is the paradigm shift from research study to research report and project. Now, this term research study has become very outdated, old-fashioned. Now, what is this research study? Remember, when you are carrying out or conducting a social research, what are the different steps which are used in social research? Firstly, you have to select a particular topic. That means you have to state your research problem. You have to define your research problem. Secondly, you have to review the existing or past literature that has been done on your topic. Whatever work has already been carried out, you have to completely give a summary of it. Thirdly, you have to draw the objectives of the research, what you're trying to explore, what you're trying to find out in your research. So for example, if I'm doing my research on drug addiction among college students of a particular locality, my objective will be how the college students define drug addiction, what are the causes of drug addiction, what is the impact of drug addiction on them, on their health, social or physical well-being or not. Okay, so that comes my objectives. Next comes the methodology, how I will carry out the research. So when I am collecting the data from the college students regarding graduation, whether I'm using interview or I'm using a questionnaire or I'm doing a case study, what method I'm using. Next comes, based on the method, I will go and collect the data, and based on data collection, I will analyze the data either in a quantitative manner or in a qualitative way or in a mixed way, using both closed and open-ended questions, which is also known as triangulation, mixed method. So that will give me a statistical analysis or an in-depth qualitative study, or maybe a mixture of both. Now, based on the data analysis, the final stage of my social research will be research report, which means conclusion or summary of your findings. We call it a research report and not a research study. It is not research study because research study means it is the study which you have carried out, but report means you're actually summarizing the entire analysis, what you have found out, and you're writing it in the form of report. You're summarizing your findings. And that report is a contribution not only to the funding agency in the form of policies, but also to society at large. And that shift in terminology, that is from research study to research report, has been done by keeping certain factors in mind. Firstly, the temporal dimension, time factor, because every research requires a lot of time. There are time constraints involved in it. Then the lifespan of the project, lifespan of the particular research. How many months these research was carried out? What was the starting and the ending time of research? When it started, when it ended? What are the benefits of the research or project? What benefits will I get as a researcher? What benefits will the society get after the research is carried out? Along with the dimension regarding the closure of the project. What dimensions have to be kept in mind if the project is by chance closed down? So that is why all research needs to be reported and projected. It should come out in the form of projects. And it is the task of researchers, be it research assistants or scholars, to be associated with some kind of research projects, which is definitely fruitful, not only for the educational institution in which he or she is working, but also for the society at large. The next transformation is from research production to research management. Now, the task of researcher is not only to conduct quality research. Definitely, they will carry out quality research, that is the prima facie. But it is not only confined to only carrying out quality research, but also to be good research managers, to help in research management and coordinations. Now, researchers can become research managers due to the rapid growth of consulting firms. Remember, managers, management has to do with private ownership of education and research. I was talking about it. So that is possible because of the onset of private consultancy firms, both in the public and private sectors in education and research. So that means whenever the term management comes into the scenario, we know that research is becoming privatized. Private consultancy firms are taking a grasp and controlling the research. And therein lies the problem, because these consultancy firms do not distinguish between research in education and any other areas. They think that research in education and any other areas are almost the same. There is no such difference between it. And thereby they act as brokers, BROKERS, between the financials of research and researchers. And when they are acting as brokers, when the line between the research in education and other areas are becoming blurred, then the importance of quality research is decreasing, unfortunately. But this shift is definitely taking place from research production to research management because of the onset of private consultancy firms. Okay, which is very, very important to know. Next is the shift from one-dimensional to interdisciplinary or multidimensional research. Now, nowadays, no research is one-dimensional. It always has a relation not only with the core discipline, but also with the allied disciplines surrounding it. So that means after the researcher becomes a professional expertise in one discipline, He will not only know the strength and weakness of one's discipline, but will also know the strength and weakness of other discipline as well. So for example, if I say sociology can be merged not only with political science, economics, anthropology, law, but it can also be merged with biotechnology. It can be merged with engineering. It can be merged with pharmacy. It can be merged with management. So that means, for example, if I have done my PhD on sociology of gender, that is how masculinity is constructed among the high school boys of North Kolkata, it has its relevance not only in sociology, definitely because my core expertise, my core discipline is sociology. It has its relevance in economics as well, because I have collected data from Bengali middle class parents and their sons. Middle class has to do with economy. Without economy, nothing is possible. We cannot help to understand the society. So it has its relation with economy. It has its relation with politics, because Bengali middle class means a lot of political upheaval, political interest coming to the scenario. It has its relation with history, because I have carried out my research in North Kolkata. I have studied the history of North Kolkata, how North Kolkata has undergone a massive transformation due to globalization, due to modernization. Okay, so that means the discipline where I am doing my expertise, it becomes the core discipline, and other disciplines complement the core in order to explain the particular phenomena. That is why research is becoming multidimensional or interdisciplinary. So research is not only confined to sociology or to social sciences, it is spreading or cutting across more such boundaries. It has its relation with biotechnology, with pharmacy, in terms of medical sociology. It has its relation with management in terms of industrial sociology to understand the industrial social relations, HR relations, and also with other allied disciplines. It has its relation with engineering in terms of understanding the social factors behind the engineers, social engineering practices. So that is how research is becoming interdisciplinary in social sciences. Next, coming to shift to evidence-based practice movement. Now, what is this evidence-based? Evidence means it is based on certain proofs. So definitely evidence-based practice movement is very important in the legal sphere, in law and order. It is also highly important in the criminal justice field. So that is why it plays an influential role in social science. So since it is based on evidences, there are certain remedies or techniques which are used, that is statistical modeling. Through statistics, we can, or through statistical modeling or research, we can have an idea about the proofs, the evidences from the society. By using multiple methods like interview, like mixed method, we can have an understanding about the evidence in our society. And by consensus panels means there are certain panels who agree with each other, and then they collect the data based on certain evidences in order to promote the effectiveness of the program. So now evidence-based practices are very, very important. Without evidence, there is no such value for social research. Next is a very, very important arena that is a very emerging new horizon of research is now coming up in social epigenetics. I repeat, social epigenetics, which understand the impact of epigenetic as a social cause and the consequences. Now, what is this epigenetics? Epigenetics is a field of study where there is interdisciplinary interaction between social and biological sciences. So that means it mainly studies the changes in the molecular levels in human organisms. And social epigenetics means it mainly studies the health inequalities that are created because of certain social factors. Social factors like nutrition level, like lifestyle diseases, like smoking, drinking. We know that it is because of certain change in a lifestyle that we suffer from lifestyle diseases. There are diseases like PCOD, polycystic ovary syndrome, which most of the women in present society faces. That is basically a lifestyle disease that happens because of certain changes in the lifestyle. So that is social epigenetics. It is because of certain nutrition level, certain maternal stress, smoking and alcohol lifestyle diseases. And this social epigenetics is a very marginalized field because no such research or hardly any research has been carried out in our country. There has been research which is carried out abroad, but not in our country. And that is why new data, new methods, and framework are used to understand the concept of social epigenetics. And social epigenetics is also used to understand concepts like yoga, because yoga helps to keep our physical and mental fitness. So that is why social epigenetics plays a very important role. And finally comes shift from induced to autonomous research. Now, what is this induced research? Induced research means where there is focus on incremental innovation. That means innovation will be based on certain increments, whereas autonomous research brings about radical innovation, sudden, spontaneous innovation. So while induced research was based on existing knowledge processes and provides small improvement, like there will be improvement, but gradually, eventually, slowly. But autonomous research means there is major technological breakthrough. Because of the impact of technology, profound impact of technology, the knowledge process is also changing. So that requires creativity. That is why there is a shift from induced to autonomous research. And so what are the features of an autonomous researcher? An autonomous researcher who believes in creativity, who believes in technological breakthrough, who actually believes in radical transformation, needs to be highly motivated. Secondly, should be able to take responsibility for research projects, because as I was saying, without project, no research has any value. Thirdly, has to be extremely optimistic, very positive. Fourthly, has to give importance to innovation-based ideas. Ideas needs to be very innovative, very versatile. They need not be, very much, very much to the grounded. Need to have an innovator's mindset, and obviously need to have good social prowess, good social skills, and need to execute the plan exceptionally well. That is when a good and quality research can be carried out. And for proper autonomous research, certain measures are also definitely required, because if these measures are not met out, autonomous research cannot be achieved. The first measure is in terms of resources. Resources can be in terms of public resource for research and training. That can come from organizations like ICSSR, like UGC. Private donations also, private consultancy firms can also provide certain fund. Income by selling the services to the private sector. And then contributions from students can also be taken. Next is excellence. In terms of that, universities have to be encouraged to engage into more collaborative research work, interdisciplinary work. Again, not one-dimensional research, but multidimensional. There needs to be collaboration between social science and natural science, between microbiology and sociology, between management and sociology. Then only the quality of research will be better. And it will create a robust system, ROBUST, in terms of flexibility, diversity, and adaptability. Flexibility in the sense that research will become more transparent. Secondly, there will be diversified areas of research. And thirdly, adaptability. That means researchers will be able to adapt themselves to multidimensional or interdisciplinary or collaborative work. So these are the measures to promote autonomous research. So these are the 10 major ways by which there has been paradigm shift, or by which, research trends have emerged. There are new horizons of research. So finally, I can conclude by saying that research priorities in India are changing. Quality of research has definitely been affected because of the onset of private consultancy firms, which actually do not demarcate between research in education and other areas, and also because of international aid for education and research. So thereby, though the developments are not the prominent ones which I talked about, but still they need to be dealt very seriously, because they are actually signaling the new emerging shifts which are coming up in research priorities in near future. So with this, I end my lecture. These are some of the books, the articles, or the journals which I referred for my lecture. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Business Rozgar again for giving me this opportunity to enlighten all of you on such a pertinent issue, because this is a very upcoming arena where I got to discuss many important emerging new trends of research like translational sociology, social epigenetics, evidence-based practice movement. So thank you very much. I will be ready to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very nice session, ma'am. I think thank you so much all the participants for your active participation. Let me inform to all that this complete session will be available on our Research Business Rozgar YouTube channel. So if you want to watch it again or want to share it somebody, please do visit the Research Circle or Business Rozgar YouTube channel. Thanks. And last but not the least, thank you very much, Miss Madhurima Das Gupta, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am.
Time.
Ma'am, I think there are certain questions in the chat box. Should I address it?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think the first question is, in today's society, when a bulk amount of data is being processed, when with the help of emerging technologies, for example, GPT models, the silos are being broken down gradually. When there is a demand of mixing methods, then at this point, how Indian society is dealing with all these multifaceted problems, how the sample hypothesis is being designed when the data set is set its arm to other disciplines, how the definition of theory is being changed to a social science student nowadays. Thank you for the question, whoever has asked me. I think nowadays the society, chat, GPT, everything is the impact of technology. So in that case, the research again has to be reformulated. Okay, so that means the research has to be reformulated. Yes, yes.
I actually want to interrupt you at some point. That is means nowadays when we have actually an access to the bulk amount of data which are being presented in front of us through any kind of source. So from example, when nowadays very ordinary people are being able to accumulate all the data, then why there is no such change in any social policy? Why there is no why there is no such change in the minute level of any problem? Means, for example, when we are still discussing about the transgender problem or something like that, people are still reacting it so much that it has been earlier 10 years ago. Why the same thing is happening? I just want to know why the policies are being failed in this point. Means, despite all this.
That is because our society, Indian society, it's a mixture of traditions, customs, traditional values and modern values. So remember, I was talking about generation gap. So in our Indian society, there is more importance given to traditions and customs than to modern values. Okay, so that is why, there is a lag in terms of the social policies. The problem lies with the government. The government do not implement the policies properly. And also the problem lies with the people's mentality, their perspective, their cultural upbringing.
Means that means the result isn't being published in a proper way. Means the researcher somehow is very much biased to his belief system or something like that.
Extremely. That is why, we are unable to achieve an autonomous research. There is no such proper flexibility.
Yeah.
There is no transparency in research. Though we are saying that there is a paradigm shift, but how much Indian society is able to accustom to it, to that paradigm shift, is questionable.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, so that is why there is lack of awareness programs. People are not aware about it. Even if they are aware, they are not, like, they do not want to come out of the stereotypical mentality of their conventional norms that they believe in.
And the mentality is very much alive in our generation also. Means the generation Z are also very much they like to be confined within the walls, within the prejudices. They don't. I don't know why the research at micro level isn't being encouraged in India. Means we do need to understand the society at micro level, but we cannot find any materials that can help us.
There is no in-depth understanding of research at the micro level. Most of it is carried out at the macro level.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why all the problems are being alleviated. I don't know.
Yes,
but
that is producing an impact on the social policies as well. And again, the lack because of the politics, the political parties, they are actually, taking everything in their favor of their vested interest, which is again producing an impact on the policies.
Yeah, they're shaping the reality very much. They're shaping the reality.
They're actually ruining the reality.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, for your answer.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Your session is very, very nice. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ritoja. Thank you, Business Rojgar, for the opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you.